Hello everyone and welcome to Slash Film Daily for January 18th, 2018. My name is Ben Pearson. I'm the senior writer at slashfilm.com. I'm recording this in a hotel room in Park City, Utah as we prepare to kick off our coverage of the Sundance Film Festival this year. If you listened to yesterday's episode, you heard the unfortunate news that this show's regular host, Peter Sciretta, slipped and fractured his wrist, and he actually ended up traveling back to LA last night to seek out proper medical treatment. Chris Evangelista, another Slash Film writer and regular guest on this show, was also planning to join us in Park City, but he ended up getting really sick, and so he is not going to be here either. So that leaves me and Brad Oman, who you may know by the name Ethan Anderton on the site, to sort of hold down the fort here with Sundance coverage. So we're going to do the best we can to spread things out and get as many reviews as possible up on the site, and I'm sure it would be appreciated if you guys could send some nice thoughts to Peter especially. He is on Twitter at @slashfilm, so if you want to reach out to him, you can do so there. Sundance officially kicks off with its first screenings a few hours from now, so I'm sure Brad and I will be appearing on the podcast over the next few days to fill you in on the movies we saw and which ones you should put on your radar. But in the meantime, in today's episode, we're going to drop you right into a feature presentation of Chris's top 10 films of 2017. Thanks for listening, and enjoy.
And for our feature presentation, we have Chris Evangelista on to talk about his top 10 movies of 2017. How's it going, Chris?
Pretty good.
Let's get to it. Number 10 on your list is Dunkirk.
Yeah, Dunkirk. I don't know if this is the best Nolan movie or my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, but I think it's one of the best examples of his directorial skill. He's literally putting every sort of trick he's learned through his career on display in this movie. And, this could have been, a standard sort of war movie, but instead it's this very well edited 3-layered narrative, and at first you don't even realize it's sort of 3 separate narratives, and then slowly he starts bringing them all together, and just the pacing on this movie is incredible. It's very propulsive. It's always moving forward, and some of the shots in this movie, like the dog fights in the air, which he shot on IMAX, just look incredible, and as is his style, they're all done, practically with real planes rather than, abundant CGI.
Oh, for sure. This is a movie, I said it on some other podcast this month, but this is a movie that needed to be watched on the IMAX big screen.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like, I don't know. I guess this is probably too hyperbolic, but I almost feel like watching this on a small TV would be, pointless.
Yeah, I mean, I rewatched it recently on my TV, and while it looked good there because the TV, it's like a fairly big TV, it didn't compare to seeing it on a huge IMAX screen.
And number 9 on your list is Jordan Peele's Get Out.
Yeah, so I'm a very big horror fan, and there's nothing I love more than a horror movie that has ideas. More often than not, the majority of horror that Hollywood pumps out is very substandard, I'd say, where it's more focused on jump scares, it's more focused on following trends. And this movie, Get Out, is very has a lot on its mind, and it's not just a standard horror movie. It's a satire, it's a socio-political commentary, it's a lot of things at once, and it really blew me away because I was aware of Jordan Peele obviously through Key and Peele, but I really didn't realize what a talented filmmaker he was, and this is like his debut feature film, and he knocks it out of the park. This is one of the best feature debuts I've ever seen. Just it's very well directed. It's tense. It's funny at times. It's disturbing more often than not. I was just very impressed with this film.
Yeah, I know I've said this before. I like this film a lot, but I feel like the political commentary and the social political commentary is like where it is strong at in the horror. And as a horror and comedy film, it's not great in either of those directions, but it is on many people's lists. I think it's a film of this time to be, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And number 8 on your list is Okja.
Yeah, I'm surprised I almost wish I had put this on my underrated list, but I thought this would be on more people's list, but it's not really showing up. This was, this is a Netflix movie, and there was some controversy sort of when they showed this at Cannes, and people sort of booed, before it even started because they were just offended at the idea of a Netflix movie playing at the Cannes Film Festival. But then, when the screening ended, everyone cheered, and rightfully so, because this is just an excellent movie. It's also, for most of the part, it's funny. It's a funny film, but the last hour is very disturbing to the point where, even though I love this movie, it's one of my favorite movies of the year, I don't think I could actually sit through this movie again. It's the last hour is just this harrowing trip through a slaughterhouse, basically, and it rattled me. I was not expecting it to rattle me so much, and it really did. And anytime a movie that has the power to affect me as much as this movie did, it's worth paying attention to for me.
This is one of the films that I did not see this year. I guess it's now on my list of shame because I when it came out, I don't feel like I heard a lot of great positive buzz for it, but it's on both your and HT's top 10 of the year. So now it is definitely jumped up my list and what I need to catch up on.
Yeah, it definitely check it out. Obviously it's on Netflix right now.
Yeah. Number 7 on your list, Personal Shopper.
I saw this film over a year ago. I saw it at TIFF. They played it at TIFF in 2016, and they didn't release it until 2017. But ever since I saw it at TIFF, I was just thinking about it nonstop, basically. This is a very weird, almost unclassifiable movie where it's sort of a ghost story. It's sort of a murder mystery, but it's not really those things at all. Kristen Stewart stars in it. This movie pretty much made me a Kristen Stewart fan. I was sort of indifferent to her for a while. I wasn't, one of those people who just hated her, which do exist, I guess, based on the Twilight films. I was just I didn't really have an opinion on her as an actress, but seeing her in this movie, it just blew me away. It's a very layered performance. There's a lot of, I guess, nuance, I would use as the word that she brings to this part. And for some reason, a lot of people have a hard time believing that. Some people, I tell them, Kristen Stewart is very good in this movie, and I guess they're just automatically associating her with the Twilight Saga. And I have to remind them that's a long time ago. She's much older now. She's learned a thing or two. She's a much better actress than she was in Twilight, and I actually think she's one of the most interesting actresses working right now, based solely on her performance in this movie.
Kristen Stewart was in some great stuff before Twilight too. I feel like it's when she's given the right material that allows her to dive into, and it's not like a YA throwaway thing. She's good. It's just you never know when she's in a project. Is it this shallow piece of movie, or is it something deeper?
Yeah, I think she's definitely now just taking more and more deeper things, which is great. I look forward to see her in more stuff.
Number 6 on your list is a film that is on many of the top 10s, very up high on many of them, like HT's, and that is Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, this movie is fantastic. It's another movie I saw at TIFF. I loved it. I mean, this is one of those movies where I feel like everything I'm going to say about it is like hyperbolic, just because the movie's almost like a sensory overload from beginning to end. On the forefront, it's a romance movie. It's a romantic movie, but there's a lot more going on here, just on a textual level. Like, very few films capture the feel of like summertime as well as this movie does, but you can practically like feel like the lazy summer heat just like drifting off the screen from this film. It's set over, a summer in Italy, and just like through the, the sound design where there's like cicadas in the trees and there's thunderstorms at night, and it just feels like a very summery film. And that really impressed me sort of the most of all, just how well that captured it. But, beyond that, the performances are great. The love story is great. It's a fantastic film. And I think any other year it might have been even higher up on my list, but everything that came after it, I liked just a little bit more.
Number 5 on your list is a film that placed highly on your underrated list, and that is Blade Runner 2049.
Right, yeah. So yeah, obviously I talked about this on the underrated segment, but yeah, I love this movie. I'm I don't put too much stake in box office. Like I don't really care if a film underperforms at the box office normally, but I am a little disheartened that this is a film that goes out of its way to be different and creative and even intellectual, and almost no one wanted to give it a chance. I've said before, and I do believe that in time people will rediscover this film and appreciate it for what it is, but it is a bit of a bummer because it sort of sends a message to Hollywood, oh, maybe we shouldn't pump so much money into big cerebral movies like this if no one's going to see them. And that's disappointing. I want more movies like this.
And just looking at your list here, like looking at the frame that you chose for Blade Runner 2049, and you could have chosen 100 different frames for this movie. This movie's so beautiful. Like every little frame is like a painting. It's just,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, even if you see this film and you don't respond to the story, you will fall in love with what you're seeing on that screen. Number 4 on your list is The Post.
Yeah, this is Steven Spielberg's movie about the Pentagon Papers. I've seen some criticism of this movie that sort of say it's too on the nose, which I guess at times it can be on the nose in the way, Spielberg relates the events in this film with, our current political situation. And while I don't disagree it's on the nose, I also feel like we're at a point where subtlety isn't needed anymore. You need to be blunt in what you're saying. And this film is a very rousing defense of both, the First Amendment and just the idea of a free press in general. I'm a sucker for movies about newspapers and journalism. I've always been, and I just love a movie that, cheers that on. But even if you don't care about that message, which you should, but even if you don't care about the message, I also think this is just a great movie. It's got an incredible cast, led by Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, who are great here. I mean, it's commonplace to say Meryl Streep is a great actress, but her performance in this film is one of those things that reminds you why everyone says she's a great actress, because this is actually, I think, one of her best performances in a long time. It's surprisingly subtle. It's surprisingly she's always sort of like thinking about stuff. You can like see the gears turning behind her eyes. And beyond that, it's just a very breezy film. This is, I think, one of Spielberg's most fast-paced films. It's over in like a blink of an eye, and it's not a short film. It's pretty much exactly 2 hours long, but it just flies by. So, even if you don't care about that political message, which again, you should, but if you don't care about that, you should still be able to appreciate this is just a really entertaining movie.
I have seen some other criticism on the film from a journalistic standard of like, Spotlight showed journalists doing the work and going out and, banging on doors and researching. This film is mostly journalists, they get they get handed these documents and they're basically just reading and, highlighting stuff. And
Yeah.
Most of the hard decision goes into, do we print it or not?
Yeah.
But I think it's a totally different movie, and I think for that reason, I've also argued in past podcasts that I wish Meryl Streep was kind of the protagonist of this film. It's kind of, I think, more in the hands of Tom Hanks in this film, and I feel like the big decision comes to her in the story, and it should have been more about her than I think the journalism. But
Yeah, I actually I was reading up on the film, and the original script was literally just about her, and then they sort of expanded it to make it about the whole the Post as an institution as well. But yeah, I understand what you're saying too.
yeah, it even had a different title, right?
I think it was called the Papers for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so number 3 on your list is Phantom Thread by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes, I know you weren't as impressed with this movie, Peter, as I was, but I mean, I'm a Paul Thomas Anderson fan, but this is really not like any movie he's made before. It's also, this is one of those movies that the trailers aren't doing it any justice, because the trailers make it look like this sort of like stuffy costume drama, and I don't think it's that at all. This is actually a very funny, dark comedy. And I feel like a lot of people don't get that. The screening I saw it at, which was a press screening, some people were laughing, but a lot of them weren't. I don't think they realized that almost everything in this movie is supposed to be funny in a very dark, twisted way, but it's supposed to be comedic. And Daniel Day-Lewis is hilarious in this, just the way he just shoots these withering glances to everyone. At first, the movie, it seems like it's going to be just another version of that trope of, the tortured asshole artist who's mean to everyone. And very, very slowly and subtly, it starts to turn into something completely different that it caught me completely off guard. And just, the performances, the direction, all the score is fantastic. This is one of those films I just haven't really stopped thinking about it since I saw it.
I mean, I don't want to paint a picture that I did not like this film. This film I think it's a great film. I understand why this is in your top three. And I did think it was so darkly funny. Daniel Day-Lewis's performance is great. I think I didn't like the ending, which we won't get into. And I just don't think it was a film for me, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I can understand that. I could fully. This is one of those films that if someone doesn't love it as much as I do, I completely get it, because it's a weird movie. It's not, it's a very strange film.
For sure. And number 2, The Shape of Water.
Yes, this is also a very strange film. I love Guillermo del Toro, and I think this might be his best movie. If not his best, it's one of the best directed of all his films. It's I knew somewhat what the film was going to be going into it. I knew it was about a woman who finds like a creature from the Black Lagoon type monster at a government facility, and the early trailers made it sound like they become friends. But the movie, they're a lot more than friends. It's literally a romance between this woman played by Sally Hawkins and this fish man. And what I love about the movie is it plays that romance completely straight. There's never a moment where Del Toro is like, oh, look at how weird this is, that this human woman is in love with this fish man. It plays it almost as like it's perfectly natural, and I just kind of love that about the movie, that it's sort of like this celebration of love on your own terms, I guess is the way you could put it. And the whole movie is just populated with these sort of outcasts of society, who don't really fit into what is considered the quote unquote norm. And Del Toro is great at making films about those types of individuals, and this is like just a great example of that.
For sure, it's such a beautiful film. I hope people see it. Let's get on to your number 1, which is a favorite of the Slash Film writers, and that is The Florida Project.
Yes. So this is it's a smaller film, I guess, compared to everything else on my list. It's from A24, the super indie studio. So I'm not this is going to make me sound like I'm an ogre, but I'm not a fan of children, I guess is the way I would put it. I find children, especially in movies, I find child actors to be sort of grating, and it's no fault of their own. They're just, they're kids and they don't know how to act. They're being put into this weird situation. But the kids in this movie are just wonderful. They're natural. Not once, even though they could even be bratty kids in this movie, there was not once when I was watching the film was I was like, ugh, get these kids out of here. Like, I was fully invested in, the journey of these kids through, just this story. There's not really one main plot in the film. It's more of just like a slice of life sort of narrative where it just keeps going from day to day. And that could be meandering in lesser hands, but Sean Baker, who also directed Tangerine, which has a sort of similar sort of flow, and that was the film that was shot all on iPhones. But he's very good at capturing these sort of down-to-earth, realistic people, and I just loved it. Willem Dafoe, I think, gives maybe the best performance of his career, and that's saying something because he's always good, but he's phenomenal here. And it's actually a great example of, he seems to be stuck playing bad guys because he has that look, but he's so
or weirdos.
Yeah, he has that really abnormal look to him. So he's always playing weirdos or bad guys, but he plays such a nice guy in this movie, and it sort of made me like angry. I was like, oh, I wish he had been playing more nice guys because he's so good at it. But maybe that helped make this performance even better. It finally gave him a chance to play that nice guy, and he does it so well. And everyone in this movie is very good. And a lot of the cast, they're not even professional actors. I think like the actress who plays the lead girl's mom, Sean Baker, found her on Instagram, but she's great in the movie too. So he just basically put these non-actors in the film and found a way to make it work. And I loved it. I know I don't want to give away the ending. I know some people don't take to the ending, but the ending, this is another film I saw at TIFF, but when I saw this at TIFF, as soon as the movie ended, I was just blown away in my seat. It was just I was not expecting the ending to hit me on such an emotional level as it did.
I think, to be as vague as possible, I think I like the intention of the ending. I don't think I love the execution of it. But this film is definitely a must watch. It's going to be up on the top of my top 10 when I publish that. So go check out the Florida Project. And you have a bunch of other movies that you list that are kind of honorable mentions. You can read that in Chris's full list, which you can find at slashfilm.com. We'll link it in the show notes. Chris, where can people find more of your work online?
I'm on slashfilm.com, and I'm on Twitter at Evangelista413.
And you can find more on all the stories mentioned today on slashfilm.com. You can find this podcast, Slash Film Daily, published every weekday on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, concerns, criticism, praise to Peter at slashfilm.com. That's Peter at slashfilm.com. And please leave your name and general geographic location in case we mention it on the air. And please go rate and review this podcast on iTunes. That helps us out quite a bit. Spread the word. Tell your friends about this podcast. And we'll see you next time.